we're laughing and joking about the fact that all anybody can talk about is what's happening in Michigan. So I will ask you right off the bat as you head out on the road, what the heck is happening? What's the latest?
There's so much going on around the Big Ten now. Yesterday at The Athletic, me and my colleagues did a story about another version of signal stealing. A lot of this, though, from our sources, was gained the normal way it is in college football. But then it was put together and we obtained documents of what they looked like in terms of what the signals were, what they translated to. And I think for Michigan fans, there's an aha moment going, wait a minute, how is this different? There was advanced, ahead of time scouting as opposed to the actual advanced scouting, which in terms of like for Connor Stallions to allegedly have gone or sent people to places to scout in person when Michigan is not involved is seen as different. And that is seen as breaking the rules. And now the commissioner of the Big Ten, Tony Petitti, who's, by the way, the new commissioner of the Big Ten, is getting a lot of pressure from the conference coaches and some ADs to act and jump in before the NCAA does and to trigger into this sportsmanship clause. Michigan, later in the day, we think, will issue some kind of response, and then we're going to find out exactly what the Big Ten is planning on doing, whether that means does Jim Harbaugh get suspended for 3 games for the rest of the season. I know Rich and I discussed that last week. It feels like a month ago, by the way. We discussed that last week.
A lot's happened in the last week.
Yeah, Rich was not happy with me or Brockman and that.
He's never happy with Brockman.
I know.
You're fine.
It was the first time I felt a lot of angst coming my way from that desk.
Welcome to my life.
I bet. So we're going to see how they decide. We're also going to see what the pushback comes back from Michigan, right? I think attorneys are going to look for some kind of injunction if they can get it to keep Jim Harbaugh on the field with his team. And to back one step, why is this people so fascinated and fixated on it? It's because it's Jim Harbaugh. It's because he is so polarizing. It's also because it's, a team that has a really good chance to win the national title. If this was a team that was 7-3, if this was what Notre Dame is now, where they're in the top 25 but they're not, they have no chance to win the national title. Yeah, there would be a tension on it because it's a high profile brand, but it's not like on top of it, wait a minute, this team went from being really bad in the COVID year and winning 2 games to all of a sudden now they're dominating the Big Ten. And this story has almost everything for it. It has the seaminess that goes with college sports. It has the dysfunction that goes with the NCAA. It has big personalities. It has huge brands, especially Ohio State and Penn State, but especially Ohio State, and then obviously Michigan on the other side of it. It is quite the train wreck.
How can Tony Petitti make any decision now? So on one hand, he's got a championship. He's got a great team that could go all the way, that would look great for the Big Ten. And yet on the other hand, he doesn't want to look like he's weak, right? So he wants to look like he's in a place of strength. But how can they possibly get the clause in play when there's no smoking gun, when there's no text connecting Harbaugh? You know Harbaugh. I mean, I don't know him well. I know him well enough to know that sometimes you're talking to him and he's completely laser focused, and other times you're wondering if he's even hearing, because his brain is thinking of something else. How can they make any judgment now without having all the information?
That is a big question I think Michigan's attorneys are going to push back and try to drill down into. From the NCAA bylaws, it is now, and it wasn't like this a long time ago, but it is now written this way where he is responsible for the people underneath him. And it doesn't help his cause that there's another investigation with the NCAA that he's already been self-sanctioned and suspended for 3 games, and the NCAA is still dealing with that. It's not like that case is done. And so what you hear from other coaches, including guys who were on that head coach's call about a week ago, was, when are they going to punish Jim Harbaugh? And why, if we don't punish somebody for doing this, you're basically telling coaches it's okay to do this.
But they all do it. That's the whole
But they're
point.
saying they don't all do that part, the part that was the Connor Stallions, to go send people to scout people in person. Now, I've been told some coaches have done it. Did they do it to the elaborate extent that it seemed like Connor Stallions in Michigan were doing, as it's been reported? I don't think they do it to that degree. But if they still do it and do it for a couple of games or key opponents, you know, is any of that ever going to come to light in the way that it does here? There's a story I'm working on now that'll probably come up in the next day of another coach kind of venting about saying, hey, we complained about something pretty nefarious to the NCAA and it was brought up and the NCAA did nothing about it. So why would you do nothing there, but you care about it there?
Because of Harbaugh, right? Just because of who it is and maybe the organization that it is.
Yeah, I think there's, like I said, there's a lot of layers. It's because it's Michigan. It's because it's Michigan as a top 5 team, because Jim Harbaugh is in their crosshairs for other stuff. And honestly, there's big schools that are aggrieved here, you know? And so I think it's I don't want to say it's a complicated story. I do think it is complex, but I think when you lay it out that way, I just think you look at it and go, okay, I can see why Tony Petitti has a huge problem on his hands, and he's not going to be able to please everybody in his constituents here.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.